Hi there, Brett here. Welcome back to Tabletop Sagas and the second video in my series of sort of bloggy style videos all around my painting up of the Currahee starter box for bolt action and the US Airborne. So today I wanted to talk through where I'm starting off, what I've been doing, because I have done a little bit in the background between the last video and this, and then also what we're going to do going forward for the rest of this video. So without further ado, let's jump right in and have a look at some of these. Now, one of the problems that I was having is the backpacks and all of the canvas parts of the models. I actually wasn't too sure what to do with them. I know I wanted them to look distinct from the actual uniforms, but I was also aware that that was a challenge. And so if I'd have gone looking at lots of photos, if I'd have gone for something that was close to how the reenactors have their equipment, I suspect that on the 28mm scale, the difference in colour really wouldn't be perceivable. So I had to exaggerate it slightly, which meant trying to find a colour that worked. Initially, I did consider using this, which is Iraqi sand. This is what I used for my Market Garden M43 uniformed guys, but I found that to be quite a yellow by the time everything was said and done, and quite a paler than I wanted it to be. So I decided to scrap that idea. I then tried painting over and doing some test models with khaki grey. This, however, I found to be basically indistinguishable from the middle stone that I've used for the main uniform, and once we get a wash on there, you weren't going to be able to see it at all. So scrapped that idea as well. In the end, after doing a bit of testing and playing around though, I've settled on using this, which is German Beige World War II from Vallejo. It seems to work. It is similar enough. It's still in that sort of brown drab. It's not particularly yellow. It's not particularly green. It's quite a middle of the road sort of option. It's darker than not pale sand, Iraqi sand. It's definitely a lot darker than pale sand as well, but it's not as close to middle stone as khaki grey was. So it's kind of hitting that middle ground for everything I wanted. It's not strictly speaking going to be 100% spot on, but it is going to be close enough and distinctive enough from the uniforms where you are going to be able to pick it out. So it's a compromise. I like to try and get things as close as we can. Obviously, when you're portraying actual people and, actual events that happened, you do want to get as faithful as you can, but at the same time, sometimes compromises do need to be made. Otherwise, I might as well just have not bothered to paint these at all and just slapped a wash on them. So I did spend a bit of time painting through all these, seeing how a load of them look together. I am happy with this, so that's why I've got more of these. Pretty much just all my artilleries and my machine gun crews are all painted up now to check it. So now we're going to be moving on to the bulk of the infantry now and working through all of that. So it's going to be looking at painting up the backpacks, the belts, the water bottles, the ties around the legs. I have just spotted as well on this here, I've forgotten to do one of this guy's pouches for his pistol. Always happens when you're doing batch things. You start to zone out, you miss things, and you go back and you touch them up. It's not a big problem. So I'm going to dive in with that. Then what I think once we've done that today, the other plan is going to be to look at doing the wooden details on the weapons, and that should, if I recall correctly, and then the bases, and then we'll have everything done ready to get a wash onto these. So let's just dive right in and get that all sorted. It's going to take me a while, but thanks to the magic of editing, I will be back in a few seconds with yourselves. Hi there, and finally back. So this is actually, I know I said going to be just a day of what I was working on. There's probably been about 2 days worth of work now by the end of this. It was a little bit grueling. The canvas elements were, I knew this, they were going to be particularly hard to get through. I really did struggle. They took about 2 hours, I think. Oh no, about an hour and a half by the end of it to do all of them. That was just because of getting around into the bandages that are on legs and things like that. I had to switch down to a smaller brush, which meant I just wasn't getting through them as fast as I could. And then I thinned the paint down too much, and so it was running, and it wasn't covering in one coat quite as nicely. Honestly, I think the main problem's been I'm trying to do too much in one go, and I'm making these little mistakes that I shouldn't be making. It is getting a little bit frustrating, if I'm perfectly honest. If I haven't said this before, I'll say it now. If I have said it before, I'll say it again. I don't actually recommend this as being wave painting, of just trying to blast out as heavily as possible. Unless this is your job and you're a commissioned painter or something like that, this is not a hobby. This is a full-time job, and that makes it an entirely different beast. But anyway, I digress. Let's have a look at some of these models, and I'll show you what I've managed to do in the last couple of days. And so here we go. Let's see if I can get these to focus, give you a nice, good little look at the detail on these. They are coming along really nicely. I've managed to get the canvas done, the wood parts done, and had I already done the leather? I believe I actually had, and just touched up some details that I'd missed. Happy with how these are coming along, actually. As you can see, they are definitely, now that we've got the, 2 different greens, the sort of yellowy ochre, the brown, the woods, you've got a good solid 5-6 colours here. It's looking really good. They're distinguishable as what is what. The next step is to give all of this a brown wash, and the reason why I've been pushing through and trying to get all of this all done in such a big chunk is that this way I can wash all of these colours, all with a brown wash, all with just a big brush in one go. It just avoids there being, doesn't avoid, but it certainly minimises any sort of tidal marks that I might see. And the wash stage is kind of a really nice point for this fast tabletop style that I do, where it really starts to bring everything together. And so I want to do all these, get these all washed in one go. I can then do the paint for the face afterwards, so that way if any of that wash does spill onto the face or the hands, I don't need to worry about being too careful or anything like that. I can do them and neaten them up afterwards and then do their own wash. Same for the metals and the blacks and things like that. They're going to be different washers, and I can use them as a way to tidy up some of my work and hide some of my sins. One thing I have done though is the wall for this guy, I've done grey. Now grey I would normally do with a black wash, but I did decide, I had a bit of a Google of Carentan stone work and things like that, and they definitely are greyish, but they kind of have that browny grey, that warm grey look to them. So nice cold grey here, brown wash over the top, dry brushing, it'll work really nice, trust me on that. So this is where they are at. Next step, like say, crack out that big brush, get these washed, and then we'll be in a really, actually I'll start to feel like I'm making some progress. I think that's going to be a big milestone and a big win for this project. So get started with that, and I'll show you the project in a time lapse so you don't have to sit through it quite as much as I do, and we'll be back in a little minute. Well, once again, there we go. It's been a couple of days now, and I have managed to get everything washed with Agrax Earthshade. As with everything in this project, this is taking absolutely forever, but we're making our way there. And these are, actually, this was probably one of the biggest steps for really starting to see things coming together and seeing how it's going to look. So let's have a look at some of these in a little bit more detail and talk about where we're going to go again next. So one thing I haven't focused on too much during this project has been the weapons for the artillery, the guns. And that's because there's not really an awful lot going on them, but I do want to show them just briefly here. These are them washed. It is definitely brought everything down and helped pick out the details on the machining, which is always really nice. The plan for these is really though just to go back in with the base colour, do kind of an overbrush sort of look, and then go in with a dry brush with that, with maybe like a cream or something like that, just to pick out the edges, and then go in and do some black on the tyres. So these are pretty much, to be honest, kind of at this stage, I'd say like 80% of the way there. Hence why I'm not spending too much time on them. I am happy with how they look, and I've done this before. I trust the process, and I know how they're going to come out in the end. But it's the infantry that I am more interested in. So this guy here, you can see this is one of the artillery operators, I believe. You can see all the creases in the clothes have all been picked out now with that wash, and it has this yellowy brown colour. It has really muted it down, and I'm actually really happy that I went with this middle stone colour, because from photos that I've seen and things like that, I was getting a little bit concerned that it was maybe a little bit too bright, it was a little bit too yellow, but trusting the process, you can see here this has brought it down, and this here is pretty spot on to where I want it to be. I will obviously go back in and do some highlighting with that yellow ochre colour, and then maybe a very small amount of a slightly more pale desaturated version of that for some raised edges. But really the uniform now at this stage, again, that's pretty much there of where I wanted it to be. You can see as well it's helped really highlight these knee patches and the elbow patches. Leather on the boots has come out really nice, and that German beige for the bandages and the belt. Again, it's really brought everything together as it always does, and I know it always does, and I am really happy with how that's gone. Let's have a look at some others. So that worth mentioning as well, this was a Warlord resin miniature. So let's have a look over here. This is some of the plastic kits. Again, really happy with how they are. Those washers have brought all those colours down and together and just made them look a lot less stark and a lot more natural. And also, can I just say, these plastic kits, absolutely beautiful. Look at them. They are so detailed. They are really crisp, really clear. They've taken this wash really well. Whoever sculpted these, my hat's off to them, because these, with all the folds in the cloth, they are just begging to be washed, and they suit it really well, which is great, particularly when you're trying to do 50 odd miniatures all in one go. So that's pretty much where we're at the minute. Let's have a look at one more. So this is one of the metals. So we've had a look at the Warlord resin, we've had a look at the plastic. Again, metal. The detail is, you can definitely tell these are a bit of an older miniature. The creases and things like that are definitely a little bit different, but still really nice. Picking out all that detail really well. I have in the past struggled with some metal miniatures that I've got from Warlord. The casting can sometimes be a little bit erratic. I do wonder whether this is a bit, the paratroopers for World War II are kind of a classic infantry force. I wonder whether maybe there's a little bit more attention paid to the casting here, or maybe perhaps because these are more popular miniatures, the molds are refreshed more often or something like that. I do wonder. That's just entirely speculation, could be completely wrong there. But like I say, the faces and things like that, they are just so much crisper than other miniatures that I've gotten in metal from Warlord, and I'm really happy with that, to be honest. So that's where we're at the minute. We've got all of the browns done, all the uniforms, the helmets. The next step is to block in the skin, and then to block in the metals, and then to do all of the highlighting all in one go to tidy everything up and bring it together. We're not going to do that in this video though. I think we've done more than enough for now for this stage. So thank you very much for coming along with me again on this vlog. If you do want to see more of this style of video, then let me know down in the comments below. How are you finding this? Is this something that's of interest to you? I'm finding this is a little bit of a quicker way for me to produce videos, which I'm quite liking. I have struggled with getting videos out regularly in the past. This could maybe be a way to get around that. And then, yeah, hit the subscribe button, you know, all the YouTubery fun stuff. But anyway, I've been Brett here at Tabletop Sagas, and I'll see you soon for the next step in the vlog.